My name is Colt Brennan. I am 20 years old, and for the past 2 years, I have been the sole financial provider for my mother and my older sister. I worked 2 jobs, sacrificed my own dreams, and poured every dollar I earned into keeping our household running. I did it because I loved them. I did it because I thought family meant taking care of each other. I did it because my mother raised me to believe that being a man meant shouldering responsibility without complaint. But on a Tuesday evening in March, I accidentally received a voice note that was never meant for my ears. And in that 63-second recording, I heard my sister and mother laughing about what a fool I was, mocking me for being their personal ATM machine, making jokes about how predictable and stupid I was for always covering their bills. That voice note shattered every illusion I had about my family. And what I did next, the choice I made when their electricity bill came due, changed all of our lives forever. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, in a modest ranch-style house on the outskirts of town where the desert starts creeping into the neighborhoods. The kind of place where the heat shimmers off the pavement in summer and the cacti cast long shadows across yards filled with gravel instead of grass. Our house was painted a faded terracotta color, with a carport instead of a garage, and a chain-link fence that was always falling apart no matter how many times I fixed it. It was not much, but it was home. Or at least, it was supposed to be. My father left when I was 12 years old. I still remember the morning like it happened yesterday, even though 8 years have passed. It was a Saturday in October, cool enough that I was wearing a hoodie when I came downstairs for breakfast. Dad was loading boxes into his truck, moving quickly and quietly, like he was trying not to wake anyone. But I was already awake. I had been awake for an hour, lying in bed and listening to the sounds of him packing. I stood in the doorway and watched him carry out the last box. He saw me there, and for a second I thought he might explain, might tell me where he was going or why, might say something that would make sense of what was happening. But he just looked at me with this expression I could not quite read, something between guilt and relief. And then he got in his truck and drove away. No goodbye, no explanation, no forwarding address. He just erased himself from our lives like we had never mattered at all. Mom came downstairs 10 minutes later and saw me still standing in the doorway. She looked at the empty carport, at my face, and something in her just crumpled. She did not cry, though. She just went into the kitchen and started making breakfast like it was any other Saturday, like her husband of 15 years had not just walked out without a word. We never talked about it. Not that day, not ever. Dad was just gone, and we pretended that was normal. My sister Sienna was 15 at the time, and she handled it differently than I did. I turned inward, became quieter, started spending more time fixing things around the house, because at least that was something I could control. Sienna turned outward, became louder, more social, more desperate for attention from anyone who would give it to her. She started dating guys who were too old for her, staying out past curfew, picking fights with Mom just to get a reaction. I do not think either of us processed Dad leaving in a healthy way. We just coped however we could and hoped that eventually it would hurt less. Mom worked as a dental hygienist at a practice downtown. It was decent work, decent pay, with benefits and everything. Before Dad left, that income had been supplementary, nice to have but not essential. After he left, it became our lifeline. The problem was it was not quite enough. Not for the mortgage, the utilities, the car insurance, the groceries, and everything else that came with raising 2 kids alone. Mom started working overtime, picking up extra shifts, but there were only so many hours in a week. I started noticing little things. How Mom would skip meals sometimes, claiming she was not hungry, but really just making sure there was enough food for Sienna and me. How the heat got turned down lower and lower each winter until I could see my breath in my bedroom. How my clothes got too small and stayed too small because there was no money for replacements. I was 12, then 13, then 14, watching my mother stretch every dollar until it screamed, and feeling helpless to do anything about it. Sienna did not seem to notice. Or maybe she noticed and did not care. She was caught up in her own drama, her own problems, her own world of teenage angst and bad boyfriends. She complained when Mom said no to something she wanted, never considering where the money would come from if Mom said yes. She expected new clothes for school, money for movies with friends, the latest phone when hers got old. And Mom, exhausted and guilt-ridden about the divorce, usually found a way to give it to her, even if it meant sacrificing something else, even if it meant going without herself. When I turned 15, I decided I needed to contribute more than just not being a burden. I needed to actually help. So I lied about my age and got a job with a landscaping company run by a guy named Hector who paid cash and did not ask too many questions. The work was brutal, especially in the Arizona heat, but I did not care. I was making money. I was helping. I gave Mom my first paycheck, $240 for 2 weeks of work. She cried when I handed it to her. Actually cried, tears running down her face as she held that check like it was the most precious thing in the world. She told me I did not have to do that she would manage, that I should save the money for myself. But I could see the relief in her eyes, the way her shoulders relaxed just a little bit. So I kept giving her my paychecks. And I kept working for Hector, even when my hands were blistered and my back ached and I was so tired I could barely stay awake in school. When I turned 16 and could legally work, I got a second job at a grocery store called Savamart. It was minimum wage, but the hours were flexible, and they let me work evenings after my landscaping shifts. I went straight from digging ditches and hauling rocks in 100-degree heat to standing behind a register scanning groceries and trying to smile at customers who treated me like I was invisible. I worked 7 days a week. I gave Mom almost every dollar I earned, keeping just enough for bus fare and the occasional meal when I was too tired to go home for dinner. Then Mom got sick. It started with joint pain, her hands stiff and swollen when she woke up in the mornings. She brushed it off at first, said it was just getting older, just the stress of everything. But it got worse. Her hands hurt so much she could barely hold the dental tools at work. Finally, after months of pushing through the pain, she went to a doctor. Rheumatoid arthritis. Degenerative. Progressive. Incurable. She had to cut back her hours at work, then eventually go on disability because she could not work at all. The disability payments were a fraction of what she had been earning. We were already barely making it. With just disability and my 2 minimum wage jobs, we were drowning. The mortgage was always late. The utility bills were constantly getting shut-off notices. We were eating rice and beans most nights because that was all we could afford, and Mom's medications were expensive. Even with insurance, they were bleeding us dry. I was 17 by then. I should have been thinking about college applications, about prom, about normal teenage stuff. Instead, I was thinking about how to squeeze a few more hours out of my work schedule. I was thinking about adult problems, adult responsibilities, and I had no idea how much of my youth I was sacrificing in the process. Sienna graduated high school and announced she was going to community college. Mom was thrilled. I did not have the heart to point out that Sienna was not paying for that investment. I was. The tuition came out of my paychecks. She lasted 1 semester before she decided college was not for her. Too much work, she said. Too boring. She dropped out and got a job at a boutique in the mall, selling overpriced clothes to women with more money than sense. It was part-time, maybe 20 hours a week, and she spent most of her paycheck on the employee discount. She would come home with shopping bags full of new outfits, while I was wearing the same 3 shirts I had been rotating for 2 years. Mom never called her out on it, never pointed out the hypocrisy of Sienna complaining about being broke while buying $100 jeans, never suggested that maybe Sienna should contribute to the household expenses the way I did. It was like there was one set of rules for Sienna and another set for me. I graduated high school with a 3.2 GPA, which was honestly a miracle considering I was working 70 hours a week. My guidance counselor tried to talk to me about college, about scholarship opportunities. She even pulled me aside one day and said she was worried about me, that I looked exhausted all the time. I lied. I told her everything was fine, that I was just working to save money for college. Because what was I supposed to say? That my mother was disabled and my sister was useless, and if I stopped working we would lose everything? By the time I was 19, I needed space. I found a studio apartment 3 blocks away, a tiny place that was basically just 1 room with a kitchenette and a bathroom. I moved out, and Mom acted like I was abandoning her. She cried and said she could not believe I was leaving, that she needed me, that she did not know how they would manage without me there. I promised I would keep paying the same amount toward the household bills, the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, Mom's medications. Nothing would change financially. I just needed my own space to sleep at night. Living on my own should have been liberating, and in some ways it was, but it was also more expensive than I had anticipated. Rent, utilities, groceries, all separate from what I was giving Mom. I was working 2 jobs and barely keeping my head above water financially. I had nothing saved, nothing set aside for emergencies or the future. Every dollar was spoken for before I even earned it, and I was so tired, not just physically tired, but tired deep in my bones, the kind of tired that comes from running on empty for too long with no end in sight. Sienna, meanwhile, was still living at home rent-free, still working her part-time boutique job and spending her money on clothes and makeup and nights out with friends. She had started dating some guy named Trent who drove a BMW and took her to expensive restaurants, and she was constantly posting photos on social media of their adventures. Wine tasting in Sedona, weekend trips to San Diego, concert tickets to see bands I had never heard of. She was living the life I should have been living at 22, while I was grinding myself into dust to subsidize her lifestyle. The resentment was building. I could feel it growing inside me like a tumor, this hot, ugly anger that I did not know what to do with. I tried to push it down, tried to remind myself that I was doing the right thing, that family took care of each other, that this was temporary and eventually things would get better. But things never got better. They just stayed hard, stayed impossible, stayed unfair. My 20th birthday came on a random Tuesday in February. I worked my landscaping job from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, then went straight to my grocery store shift from 3 until 11 at night. When I got home to my tiny apartment, exhausted and hungry, I checked my phone. Mom had sent a text at some point during the day. "Happy birthday, sweetie, love you." That was it. No card, no gift, no acknowledgement of the fact that I had spent the entire day working to pay her bills. Sienna did not remember at all. 2 days later, she sent me a message that said, "OMG, I totally forgot. Happy belated birthday, bro. Sorry, things have been crazy, lol." Things had been crazy. Right. She had been so busy going to brunch with Trent and shopping at her boutique that she had forgotten her brother's birthday. The brother who had been supporting her financially for years. March arrived with unseasonably warm weather. I was working a double shift at the grocery store, covering for someone who called in sick when I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. I was on my break, sitting in the back room and eating vending machine crackers for lunch, and I pulled out my phone to check the notification. It was from the family group chat we had on a messaging app. The little icon showed it was from Sienna, but when I clicked on it, I realized immediately that something was wrong. Instead of being posted to the group, it had been sent directly to me. A voice note, 63 seconds long. I almost ignored it, but something made me click play. The recording started, and I heard background noise. The sound of a television playing, something with laugh tracks, someone moving around, the rustle of fabric. Then Sienna's voice came through, clear and unmistakable. "I am telling you, Mom, it is so easy. Just tell him the electric bill is due, and he will pay it. He always does. Like clockwork. Colt is so predictable, it is almost sad." My whole body went cold. I was sitting in the break room of Savamart, holding my phone, and I could not move. I could not breathe, because that was not a voice note meant for me. That was Sienna talking to Mom, and she had somehow sent it to me by accident. Mom's voice came through next, and she was laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but a real genuine laugh, like she had just heard the funniest joke. I know, he has been like that since he was a kid, always trying so hard to be the good son, always trying to prove himself. It is kind of pathetic, really. I mean, I am grateful, Sienna continued, and I could hear the smirk in her voice. Free rent, basically. Free utilities. I can spend my money on whatever I want because I know Colt will cover the important stuff. It is like having a sugar daddy, but it is my little brother. How messed up is that? They both laughed again. Longer this time, harder, like it was the funniest thing they had ever discussed. I felt something crack inside my chest, something that had been holding me together for years, just splitting right down the middle. Do you think he will ever wise up? Sienna asked. Do you think there will ever be a day when he is just like, nah, figure it out yourselves? Colt. Mom's voice was dismissive, almost contemptuous. No, he is too much of a people pleaser, too desperate for approval, too scared of disappointing us. He will keep paying as long as we need him to, probably longer. It is kind of pathetic, but it is also convenient, so I am not complaining. Should we feel bad? Sienna asked, but her tone made it clear she did not actually feel bad at all. About what? Mom said, he is choosing to do this. No one is forcing him. If he is dumb enough to work 2 jobs and give us all his money instead of living his own life, that is on him. We are just accepting what he is offering. Besides, what else is he going to do with the money? It is not like he has any friends or hobbies or a girlfriend. This gives him purpose. We are doing him a favor, really, by letting him take care of us. More laughter, then some sounds of movement, like Sienna was getting up or picking up her phone. Then a rustling sound, and the recording cut off abruptly. I sat there in the break room, staring at my phone, feeling like the entire world had just tilted sideways. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I played the recording again, because surely I had misheard. Surely I had misunderstood. But the words were the same the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time I played it. They thought I was pathetic. They thought I was desperate for approval. They thought I was too dumb to realize I was being used. They were actively, consciously exploiting me, and they thought it was funny. They were laughing about it, making jokes about their personal ATM machine who was too stupid to ever say no. I went back to work somehow, finished my shift, scanned groceries and bagged items and said, "Have a nice day," to customers and moved through the motions like a robot. I drove home to my tiny studio apartment and sat on my bed in the dark. I played the recording again, and again, and again, each time trying to find some other interpretation, some way to make it less awful than it was. But there was no other interpretation. I looked up at the ceiling of my cheap apartment, and I thought about my life, about the fact that I was 20 years old and I had nothing. No savings, no education, No friends because I never had time to maintain friendships. No girlfriend because I never had time to date. No hobbies because I never had time for anything except work. I had nothing except the privilege of supporting two people who saw me as a joke, as a fool. Something hardened inside me that night. I was done. I was done sacrificing. I was done being used. I was done being the responsible one while everyone else did whatever they wanted. I opened my banking app and looked at my finances. Over the past 2 years, since I had turned 18 and started tracking everything carefully, I had given my mother $48,300. $48,000 that could have paid for community college, could have been saved for my future, could have given me options and opportunities and a life. Instead, it had funded Sienna's shopping habit and Mom's complete lack of motivation to manage her finances properly. I thought about confronting them, calling Mom right then and playing the recording back to her, demanding an explanation, but I knew how that conversation would go. They would deny it, or minimize it, or turn it around on me somehow. They would cry and apologize and promise to do better, and then nothing would actually change. So I made a different decision. I was not going to confront them. I was not going to warn them. I was simply going to stop. Stop paying. Stop sacrificing. Stop being their safety net. And I was going to let them experience the natural consequences of their own choices for the first time in years. The electricity bill was always due on the 15th of every month. I had been paying it automatically for so long that I always paid it early to make sure there was never any risk of shutoff. The bill for March was $327. It was currently March 8th. I had 7 days before the due date, and I decided I was not going to pay it. Not early, not on time, not at all. March 15th arrived. The electricity bill was due. I did not pay it. I watched the due date come and go, and I did nothing. My phone stayed silent. Mom did not text to remind me, because she assumed I had already handled it like I always did. 3 days passed. The power company gave a grace period before shutoff. During those 3 days, I started getting texts from Mom. They started casual and got progressively more urgent. Colt, I think there might have been a problem with the electric payment this month. Did you pay it already? Honey, I called the power company, and they said the bill has not been paid. Can you check on that? Colt, they are threatening to shut off our electricity if we do not pay by tomorrow. This is serious. Can you please handle this today? I did not respond to any of them. I saved every message, building my documentation of their expectations and assumptions. March 18th, around 6 in the evening, I was at my apartment, making dinner when my phone started ringing. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Let it ring. Called a third time. Still did not answer. Then Sienna started calling. Then the text messages started flooding in. The power went out. Colt, the power is completely out. What happened? Why didn't you pay the bill? This is insane. I have food in the refrigerator that is going to spoil. How could you let this happen? Call me back right now. Are you seriously ignoring us right now? This is not funny, Colt. We need the electricity back on immediately. I finished making my dinner. I ate slowly, deliberately. I ignored the constant buzzing of my phone. And then, finally, around 8 o'clock, I answered when Mom called. Colt. Her voice was shrill, panicked, angry all at once. What the hell is going on? Why is our power shut off? Why did you not pay the electric bill? I did not pay it, because I am not paying your bills anymore, I said. My voice was calm, flat. There was a shocked silence. Then, what are you talking about? Of course you are paying the bills. You always pay the bills. That is the arrangement. What arrangement, Mom? The one where I work 70 hours a week and give you all my money, while Sienna spends her paychecks on designer clothes? That arrangement? because I do not remember agreeing to that. I do not remember signing up to be your personal ATM machine. Colt, I do not know what has gotten into you, but this is not the time for attitude. You need to call the power company right now and pay this bill. No, I do not need to do anything. You need to pay your own bills. I cannot afford to pay the bills. You know I am on disability. That is why you help us. I have been taking care of this family for 5 years. I have given you over $60,000. I have sacrificed my education, my future, my entire life to keep you comfortable. And you know what I got in return? I got to hear you and Sienna laughing about what a pathetic fool I am, mocking me for being stupid enough to work myself to death for you, joking about how I am your personal ATM machine who is too desperate for approval to ever wise up. The silence on the other end was absolute. What are you talking about? Mom said finally, her voice careful. The voice note, the one Sienna accidentally sent me. I heard everything. I heard you both laughing at me. I heard you call me pathetic and desperate and dumb. I heard you discuss how you are using me and how convenient it is that I am too stupid to realize it. So congratulations, Mom. You were wrong about one thing. I did wise up, and I am done. Colt, honey, I think you misunderstood. I have the recording saved. Do not even try to deny it. I know exactly what you said. Every word, every laugh, every joke, at my expense. And I am done being your punchline. This is a misunderstanding. We were just venting. You know how much I love you. If you loved me, you would not have been laughing about exploiting me. If you loved me, you would not have let me sacrifice my entire youth to support you. If you cared about me at all, you would have noticed that I have nothing. No life, no friends, no future, just work and bills and more work. I never forced you to do anything. You offered to help. I was 16 years old when I started giving you my paychecks, Mom. 16. I was a child, and you let me shoulder adult responsibilities because it was easier than actually parenting Sienna or managing your finances. You let a teenager support your household, and then you mocked him for it behind his back. Colt, please, we can talk about this. But right now, we really need the power turned back on. No, this is not my crisis. This is your crisis. You are an adult. Sienna is an adult. You have had years to figure out how to manage your finances. You chose not to. So now you get to experience what happens when your ATM stops dispensing cash. Figure it out yourself. You are being cruel. You are punishing us over a misunderstanding. I am refusing to be exploited anymore. There is a difference. And if you think it is cruel to expect you to pay your own bills, maybe you should think about how cruel it was to use me for 5 years while laughing about it. We were not laughing at you. Yes, you were. I have the recording. Do not lie to me. You called me pathetic, Mom. You said I was desperate for approval. You said it was convenient that I was too dumb to realize you were using me. Those are not the words of someone who respects me. Mom was crying now. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should not have said those things. Please, Colt. We need you. You need my money. You do not need me. There is a difference. That is not true. I love you. You are my son. Then you should have treated me like one instead of a bank account. I hung up before she could respond. Mom called back immediately. I declined the call and blocked her number. Then I blocked Sienna's number. Then texts started coming in from numbers I did not recognize. I just kept blocking numbers until the messages stopped. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No anxiety about bills. No stress about work. Just pure rest. I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. Over the next few days, the contact attempts continued, but I ignored all of them. I went to work like normal, but I noticed something different. I was not as tired anymore. The work was still hard, but knowing that I was doing it for myself made it feel less soul-crushing. I started looking into community college enrollment for the fall. I looked at degree programs, imagined a future where I had an education and career prospects. On the fourth day, I got a knock on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw a man I did not recognize. Middle-aged, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, holding a clipboard. I opened the door with the chain lock still engaged. "Are you Colt Brennan?" he asked. "Who wants to know?" "My name is Roger Phillips. I am a private investigator. I was hired by your mother to locate you and deliver a message." I actually laughed. "You have got to be kidding me. She hired a private investigator." "Yes, sir. She is very concerned about you. She asked me to give you this letter and to verify that you are safe." He held out an envelope. I stared at it. "Tell my mother I am fine. Tell her I am an adult who has made a conscious decision to establish boundaries. Tell her that hiring a private investigator is not going to change my mind. It is just going to prove that I made the right choice." Roger shifted uncomfortably. "Your mother paid me $500 to locate you." $500, I repeated. "She paid you $500 to track me down. $500 that she apparently had available despite claiming she could not afford a $300 electric bill. Does that seem strange to you? I do not really get involved in family dynamics. She could not pay her own utility bill, but she had $500 to hire you because her priorities are not about survival. They are about control, about making sure her ATM machine does not escape. She said to tell you that she is sorry, that she wants to make things right. If she wants to make things right, she can start by respecting my boundaries. She can stop calling me from random numbers. She can stop sending people to my door. She can give me space." I closed the door. Roger knocked again, but I did not answer. That evening, I called the electric company from a burner app and confirmed that service had been restored to Mom's address. Someone had paid the past due balance, plus a reconnection fee 4 days after the shutoff. Total amount, approximately $530. So they had found money somewhere. They had managed without me, which meant they could have been paying all along. They just chose not to, because why should they when Colt would handle everything? March turned into April. I kept working, kept planning. I applied to community college and got accepted for fall. I registered for classes. I set up a payment plan for tuition. For the first time in my adult life, I was planning for my future instead of just surviving. I still got occasional contact attempts, voicemails, emails, messages. Each one followed the same pattern. They were sorry, they missed me, they wanted to talk, they needed help with various problems. I did not respond. I just saved everything, documentation of their continued manipulation attempts. In late April, I got a message that was different. It was from Sienna, from an unknown number. "Colt, I know you probably will not read this, but I need to try. I wanted to say that I am sorry. Real sorry. These past 6 weeks have been really hard. Mom and I had to figure out how to manage the bills ourselves. We had to budget and sacrifice, and it sucked. And it made me realize what you had been doing for us. How much you were giving up. I took you for granted. I thought supporting us was easy for you. I did not think about what it was costing you. That voice note, I am so ashamed of it. There is no excuse. I was being a spoiled brat. You deserved better from me. I know you probably do not believe me, but I have been thinking about the kind of person I was and the kind I want to be. I do not want to be someone who uses people. I want to be better. I do not know if we will ever be able to have a relationship again. But I needed to tell you that I am sorry, that you were a good brother, that you deserved so much better. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for hidden agenda, but it sounded genuine, but words were cheap. If Sienna really wanted to change, that was on her to prove over time. I did not respond. I just saved the message. 2 weeks later, Another message from a different number. Mom this time. Colt, I have spent the past 2 months thinking about everything. About what you heard in that voice note. About how I treated you. I was not a good mother to you. When your father left, I was overwhelmed and you stepped up. You became reliable, and I just let you. I let you sacrifice your childhood, your future. I told myself it was okay, because you seemed willing. But that was wrong. I was the parent. I should have been protecting you. Instead, I took the easy way out, and then I mocked you for it. That voice note, I will never forgive myself. You were giving up everything, and I called you pathetic. There is no excuse. You asked me once why I did it. Why I let things be so unequal between you and Sienna. The truth is, I think I resented you. You were born when I was not ready for another child. I had finally gotten to a place where I was starting to think about who I was outside of being a mom. And then I got pregnant and it felt like a trap. I think I blamed you for that, which is insane and unfair. But I blamed you anyway. I am in therapy now. It is hard, but I need it. I need to understand why I did what I did. This is not me asking you to come back or forgive me. This is just me acknowledging the truth. You deserved better. You deserved a mother who put you first. I failed you, and I am sorry. This message hit different because Mom was acknowledging things I had wondered about my whole life. The resentment, the favoritism, the why. But these were still just words. And I had learned that words without action meant nothing. I saved the message and did not respond. May came. I picked up overtime to build my college fund. I made friends with a guy named Isaiah from work. We started hanging out, talking about classes and life. He was the first friend I had made in years. We went to a movie one weekend. It was such a small thing, but it felt revolutionary. I was doing something just for fun. Just because I wanted to. In June, another message from Sienna. Hey Colt, I wanted to update you. Mom and I moved. We could not afford the house anymore, so we downsized to a 2-bedroom apartment. It was hard, leaving the place we had lived for so many years, but it has been good for us. The rent is cheaper. We are learning to live within our means. I got promoted at the boutique. I am full-time now with benefits. Mom's freelance sewing business is doing better. We are making it work. We are okay. And I wanted you to know that, because I think that is what you wanted when you cut us off. You wanted us to stand on our own feet, and we are doing that. It is hard, but we are managing. I do not know if we will ever talk again. I hope we will, because you are my brother and I miss you. But I understand if that never happens. Take care of yourself, Colt. I read that sitting in my apartment, they had moved. They were managing without me. That validated everything. They could survive without exploiting me. They just had not wanted to. I felt relieved and sad. Sad that it took this for them to finally grow up, but mostly relieved. I still did not respond, but I kept the message. Maybe someday I would be ready to talk, but not yet. I was still healing. Still building my own foundation. Summer classes started at community college. I took 2 classes, Introduction to Psychology and Freshman Composition. I sat in classrooms with other students my age, people chasing their dreams. I raised my hand and asked questions. I wrote papers. I took exams. All things I thought I would never get to do. My psychology professor pulled me aside one day. She said I seemed older than the other students, more serious, like I had lived more. I told her I had been working full-time since 15 to support my family, and this was my first time focusing on my own future. She told me about campus counseling services, resources for students navigating difficult family situations. I made an appointment with a campus therapist named James. I told him everything. He listened without judgment. He told me I had been parentified, that it was a form of emotional abuse, that what I did by setting boundaries took incredible courage, that I was not selfish for choosing myself, that I was not broken, just wounded. And wounds could heal. Therapy helped me process complicated feelings. The anger, the guilt, the grief. James helped me see that healing was possible if I gave myself space and time. August arrived, and with it, my 21st birthday. Isaiah insisted on taking me out to celebrate. We went to a bar. He bought me my first drink. We played pool, listened to music. It was perfect and ordinary and wonderful. When I got home that night, I found a card under my door. Handwritten, no envelope. Colt, I know you are not reading my messages, but your birthday felt too important to let pass. I wanted you to know I am thinking of you today. 21 is a big milestone. I hope you are celebrating. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, I hope you are happy. I hope you know how much you deserve to be happy. With love always, Mom. I sat on my couch holding that card, feeling emotions I could not quite name. It was not manipulative. It was not demanding anything. It was just a mother acknowledging her son's birthday. That simplicity got past my defenses in a way the previous messages had not. I did not respond, but I kept the card, put it on my fridge next to my class schedule and my work schedule. A small acknowledgement that maybe someday there might be room in my life for some version of relationship with my family. But that day was not today. Fall semester started, and I increased my course load to 4 classes. I was still working at Savamart, but just part-time now, 25 hours a week. It was enough to cover my expenses, especially combined with financial aid and small scholarships. I was not living extravagantly, but I was surviving, and more importantly, I was thriving. I made more friends at school, joined a study group for my math class, started going to social events on campus, started dating a girl named Zara from my English class. Nothing serious, just figuring out how relationships worked when you had never had time for them before. It was all new and sometimes awkward, but mostly exciting. In October, 7 months after I had walked away, I got an email from Sienna, this time from her actual email address. Subject line, no response needed. Colt, I am emailing you from my actual account because I want you to have my contact information if you ever decide you are ready to talk. But I am not asking you to talk. I just wanted to update you because I think you deserve to know how we are doing. Mom and I are both in therapy now, separately and together. We are working through a lot of stuff, unpacking the family dynamics, understanding how we got to such a toxic place. It is hard work. Some sessions I leave feeling worse, but I think it is helping. Mom has been really honest about her resentment toward you when you were born, about how wrong that was. She carries a lot of guilt. Her therapist is helping her work through it, helping her understand that she cannot undo the past, but she can commit to being better in the future. I have been working on my own stuff too. My entitlement, my selfishness, the way I treated you like you existed to serve me. I was raised to think I was special, that I deserved more, and I never questioned that until I was forced to. I am questioning it now. I am trying to be a better person, not for you, because I do not have the right to ask anything from you, but for myself. We are managing okay financially. It is tight sometimes, but we are making it work. Mom's sewing business is growing. I got another promotion. We are learning to budget, to save, to be adults. I know we hurt you deeply. I know the trust is broken, maybe beyond repair. I do not expect you to forgive us. But if you ever do, if you ever feel safe enough and healed enough to consider it, I want you to know that we are working on ourselves. We are not the same people we were 7 months ago. We are trying to be better. I hope you're doing well, Colt. I hope school is going great. I hope you are happy. You deserve every good thing. With love, Sienna. I read that email twice, then sat back and thought about everything that had happened. The voice note that shattered my illusions. The electricity shutoff that forced them to face reality. The messages that slowly evolved from defensive to accountable. The evidence of real change, sustained over time. I was not ready to respond yet, but for the first time, I felt like maybe someday I would be. Not to go back to how things were, because that was toxic, but maybe to build something new, something healthier, something based on mutual respect and boundaries instead of exploitation. But that was future Colt's problem. Present Colt had midterms to study for, shifts to work, friends to hang out with. Present Colt had a life to live, a future to build, dreams to chase. November came, and with it, Thanksgiving. Isaiah invited me to spend the holiday with his family, and I accepted. It was my first Thanksgiving not spent with Mom and Sienna. I expected to feel sad or guilty, but instead I felt grateful. Grateful for Isaiah's family, who welcomed me. Grateful for the meal and laughter and lack of tension. Grateful for the life I was building where holidays could be enjoyable instead of stressful. That evening, I found another card under my door. Handwritten, simple. Colt, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I wanted you to know that I am grateful for you. Grateful that you were strong enough to walk away when we were treating you badly. Grateful that you forced us to grow up. Grateful that you existed, even though I spent too many years resenting your existence. You were a good son. You are a good person, and I am sorry it took me so long to see that clearly. With love, Mom. I kept that card too. Put it next to the birthday card on my fridge. 2 small pieces of paper that represented a journey. Not my journey back to them, but their journey toward becoming people who might someday deserve to be in my life again. December arrived with cooler temperatures and the approach of finals. I was stressed, but in a good way. The kind of stress that came from caring about something that mattered. I studied hard, took my exams, and passed all my classes with good grades. My first semester of college completed successfully, something I had thought would never happen for me. On Christmas Eve, I was at my apartment wrapping gifts for Isaiah and a few other friends I had made. Small things, nothing extravagant, but thoughtful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Colt, this is Sienna. I am texting one last time, and then I promise I will stop unless you reach out first. I wanted you to know that Mom and I are doing okay. We are surviving. We are growing. We miss you. We love you. And we understand why you are not ready to talk to us. Maybe you never will be, but if you ever are, we will be here. Merry Christmas, little brother. I hope you are surrounded by people who appreciate you the way you deserve. I read the message, sitting on my floor surrounded by wrapping paper and ribbons. For the first time since March, since the voice note, since the electricity shut off, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, not reconciliation, but something softer than anger, something closer to peace. I thought about responding, thought about sending a simple Merry Christmas back, but I was not quite ready yet. So I saved the message and went back to wrapping gifts, making plans with friends, living the life I had fought so hard to build. Christmas Day, I spent with Isaiah's family again. We ate too much food, played board games, laughed until our stomachs hurt. It was the best Christmas I had ever had, not because of expensive gifts or elaborate celebrations, but because I was with people who chose to include me, who valued my presence, who treated me like I mattered. That evening, sitting in Isaiah's living room, watching a movie with his family, I felt my phone buzz. I pulled it out and saw an email notification from Mom. Subject line, "Just thinking of you." I almost did not open it, but curiosity won out. Colt, I will not take up much of your time. I just wanted to say that I am thinking of you today, remembering the day you were born, how tiny you were, how much you cried until I held you, and then you went perfectly quiet. I am remembering the good moments we had before everything got so complicated. Your first day of kindergarten, when you cried and held onto my leg. The time you built that elaborate Lego castle and were so proud to show me. The way you used to fix everything around the house. Always so determined to help. I know I did not appreciate those things enough at the time. I know I took you for granted, but I remember them now. And I want you to know that even though I failed you in so many ways, there were moments when I saw you clearly, when I understood what an incredible person you were becoming. I just did not tell you often enough, or at all. I am sorry for that. Merry Christmas, Colt. I hope you are happy. I hope you are loved. You deserve all the happiness in the world. With all my love, Mom. I read the email twice. Then I put my phone away and went back to watching the movie, surrounded by warmth and laughter and acceptance. And for the first time, I felt like maybe someday when I was ready, when I was healed enough, when I was strong enough, I might be able to respond. Not to go back, but to move forward. Not to forget what happened, but to acknowledge that people could change. That growth was possible. That maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward that included some version of family. But that was for someday. For now, I had my life, my education, my friends, my future, my peace, and that was enough. January arrived, bringing with it a new semester and new possibilities. I was taking 5 classes this time, really pushing myself, building toward an associate degree and eventually a transfer to a 4-year university. I had dreams now, plans, a future that belonged to me and no one else. One evening in late January, almost a full year after the voice note incident, I was sitting in my apartment working on an essay for my English class when I felt ready. Ready to send a response. Not a long one, not a reconciliation, just an acknowledgement. I opened my email and typed a message to both Mom and Sienna. I received your messages over the past year. All of them. I have read every apology, every update, every acknowledgement of the damage that was done. I appreciate that you are both in therapy and working on yourselves. I appreciate that you have taken responsibility for your actions and are trying to become better people. I am not ready for a relationship yet. I do not know if I ever will be. The hurt runs too deep, and I am still healing from years of being exploited and undervalued. But I want you to know that I am doing well. I am in college. I am building a life I am proud of. I have friends who value me. I have a future that is mine. And I am happy in a way I never was when I was sacrificing everything to support you. Maybe someday we can have a conversation. Maybe someday we can build something new, something healthier than what we had before. But that day is not today, and it might not be tomorrow. It might not be for years, and I need you to be okay with that. I need you to respect my boundaries and my timeline without pressure or guilt trips or manipulation. If you can do that, if you can give me space and time without making it about your feelings or your need for resolution, then maybe there's a path forward. But it has to be on my terms, not yours. I hope you continue with therapy. I hope you continue to grow. I hope you build lives you are proud of, lives that do not require exploiting anyone else. Take care of yourselves. Colt. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. And then I closed my laptop and went back to my essay, back to my life, back to the future I was building one day at a time. 2 days later, I got a response from Mom. Short and simple. Thank you for responding, Colt. We respect your boundaries. We will wait as long as it takes. We love you, Mom. Sienna sent a separate message. Also short. Thank you for giving us hope that someday might exist. We will be patient. We will keep working on ourselves. We love you, Colt. And that was it. No pressure. No guilt trips. No demands for more. Just acceptance of my boundaries and gratitude for the small opening I had given them. I felt something release in my chest. Something I had been holding tight for months. Not forgiveness yet. Not reconciliation. But the possibility of both. Somewhere down the line. When I was ready. If I was ever ready. My name is Colt Brennan. I am 20 years old. For 5 years, I worked myself to exhaustion to support a family that took me for granted and mocked me behind my back. Then I heard a voice note that shattered every illusion I had about their gratitude and respect. When their electricity bill came due, I made the hardest decision of my life. I stopped paying. I let them fail. I forced them to face the consequences of their own choices. And in doing that, I saved myself. They called me cruel. They called me selfish. They hired a private investigator. But I held my ground. And slowly, painfully, we all learned what we were capable of when we stopped relying on my self-destruction to keep us afloat. I do not know if we will ever be a real family again. I do not know if I even want that. But I know that I am finally living for myself. I am building a future that belongs to me. I am surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for what I can provide. And I am happy in a way I never thought possible. That voice note was meant to mock me, to laugh at my expense. But instead, it became the catalyst for the most important decision of my life. The decision to choose myself, to demand better, to walk away from people who did not deserve my sacrifice. And I would make that same decision again in a heartbeat, because I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is loving yourself enough to leave. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be used. Sometimes the only way to save your family is to save yourself first. Thank you for listening to my story of growing up faster than I ever wanted to. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, both from young men who learned that sometimes becoming an adult does not happen at 18. It happens the moment your family needs you to be strong. Click on whichever one speaks to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it is like to be forced to grow up overnight, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, age is just a number, but courage defines who you really are.